To wrap up, let's review what we talked about in this module. The first thing we talked about was the things you need to decide before creating your project. One of the key things we talked about there was the names. There's a display name, a project name, and a package name. Now we know the project name was really used exclusively inside of Eclipse, but other things like the display name and the package name affect the way our application appears inside of Google Play, so they actually reflect our public view of our application. We then talked about the appearance of our application. Those are things like our icon, our interface flow, and the structure, right? The way our application looks and behaves. And then we touched briefly on the supported Android versions. What versions of the very many Android versions are out there that we want our application to support? We're going to talk a lot more in the next module about how to make that decision. We then looked at the key project members. There are a number of different files inside of an Android project, but we really fundamentally deal with three file types primarily. Right? One is our Java source file. Right? That's the code that we actually compile that actually runs our program. We talked about our resource files. Right? Some of those were XML files that affect our application. Other things were more kind of media-oriented files like icons and images. And one very important file, which was the Android manifest.xml, that advertises to Google Play and to the Android platform the features and capabilities of our application. We then finished up with the Android build process. Right? There's a number of things that go on there, and most of these things are handled very implicitly inside of Eclipse, so we don't have to think about the details. But there are some things involved that we need to be aware of. One of the most important ones is the generation of this r.java file. The things that we put into our resources, much of that information has to be generated into the r.java class that we then reference inside of our rest of our source code to reach those resources. So we'll make sure that that file gets generated correctly. And we talked about how to deal with issues when that file does not get generated. And then ultimately, what we're looking to do is generate an APK file. That APK file represents our fully constructed, fully built version of our application, and that's what gets deployed to a device or emulator.